My name is Hazel. I'm 28, and Charleston, South Carolina is my home. 3 years back, I crossed paths with Ethan at an alumni fundraising event. He was well mannered, outgoing, and 4 years my senior, he struck me as a mature man who knew his direction in life. In the eyes of our friends, we quickly became the ideal couple. He was a financial manager at a prominent investment firm, while I served as the communications director for a small nonprofit organization. One afternoon in June, as we strolled by the Ashley River, Ethan asked me to marry him. The ring he offered wasn't adorned with the largest diamond, yet the sincerity in his gaze made me feel like the most fortunate woman alive. I found myself dreaming of a quaint house with a white porch, evenings filled with candlelight, and a future we would build together step by step. Everything seemed utterly perfect. Everything that is, except for Ethan's family. From my very first encounter with his mother Vivian, I sensed the heavy weight of her critical gaze. She would offer a smile, but it never quite reached her eyes. "And what is it you do, Hazel?" she'd inquire with a saccharine sweetness, though I could detect the judgment laced in every word. When I mentioned my work at a nonprofit, she'd subtly raise an eyebrow, saying nothing as if I just admitted to being a hopeless case. Ethan's father, Douglas, was a different sort. He made no effort to conceal his disdain. Every conversation inevitably circled back to golf or multi-million-dollar contracts, always concluding with a condescending smirk in my direction, as if I were an unwelcome presence at their table. Ethan would try to soothe my concerns. He'd take my hand, assuring me his family would eventually warm up to me, that our love was stronger than any obstacle. And I foolishly believed him. I naively thought that with enough patience, enough kindness, Vivian and Douglas might one day accept me as part of their fold. I couldn't have been more wrong. Throughout our year-long engagement, every dinner, every family gathering became an exercise in enduring subtly veiled insults, cleverly disguised as polite conversation. On one occasion during a dinner with the entire extended family present, Vivian casually inquired, "Hazel dear, if Ethan were to lose his job, would you be capable of supporting the family?" I was stunned into silence. She merely sipped her wine, as if she'd commented on the weather. And Douglas, at a gathering before Christmas, he once remarked, "These days, anyone can put on fine clothes and feign success. What truly matters is one's background." His eyes met mine with the sharpness of a dagger. He didn't need to spell it out. In their view, I would forever remain an outsider. Ethan witnessed it all. He was aware. Yet instead of taking my side, he consistently chose silence. "I just don't want to escalate the tension," he would often say, whenever tears streamed down my face after those emotionally draining dinners. I kept reassuring myself that once the wedding took place, once some time had passed, things would improve. This blind hope sustained me until we were a mere 3 weeks from our wedding day. The venue was secured a beautiful farm awash with lavender on the city's outskirts. My wedding dress was ready, the invitations had been dispatched, and the three-tiered cake had been selected. Night after night, I envisioned myself walking down the aisle, music playing with Ethan waiting for me at the end. I dreamed. I held on to hope. But those scrutinizing eyes, those insincere smiles, those cold handshakes from Ethan's family, they never truly faded. They merely lurked beneath the surface, biding their time for the opportune moment to surge forth and engulf everything. On a sweltering Thursday afternoon, precisely 7 days before our wedding, Ethan called me. His voice over the phone sounded peculiar, a mix of excitement and haste. "Babe," he said, "my parents booked a weekend trip for the entire family to Naples, Florida. Just a quick getaway before the wedding. I'll be back on Sunday." I hesitated. Naples. At this moment, we were neck deep in last-minute arrangements from floral selections to seating charts. But Ethan had clearly already made his decision. I could tell from his tone. Arguing would be futile. "It's just 3 days," he laughed, attempting to dispel my apprehension. "I'll call you every night." Reluctantly, I agreed. After I ended the call, I stood motionless in the quiet kitchen, a sense of unease creeping into my chest. Something felt distinctly wrong. The following morning, Ethan wheeled his suitcase out the door, seemingly eager to depart. There was no lingering hug, no wistful backward glance, just a swift kiss on my forehead and a promise to text as soon as I land. I sat on the wooden chair by the window, clutching a cold cup of coffee. It felt as though an invisible hand were tightening its grip around my chest. Saturday evening, while I was desperately trying to banish the darkest thoughts from my mind, I received a call from Sadie. She was my best friend, and by a strange twist of fate, worked as a manager at a luxury resort in Naples. "Hazel," she whispered. Is Ethan supposed to be in Naples with his family? I sat bolt upright. Yes, why? Sadie paused, then uttered words that sent a chill down my spine. I just saw him at the hotel restaurant, with his parents and a woman I've never seen before. The world seemed to tilt beneath me. Who is she? I managed to ask, my voice trembling. Not sure, Sadie replied. She looked to be about 25, blonde, and was wearing a tiny red dress. And Hazel, she continued, Ethan's parents were acting as if she's the future daughter in law. I gripped my phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. Sadie went on, her voice careful and measured. Ethan and this woman, they were laughing, sitting very close. Vivian and Douglas kept introducing her to everyone around. I don't recall how I ended that call. I only remember sitting frozen on the floor, my heart pounding like a caged animal. 3 years of love and trust shattered by a single devastating revelation. But I'm not the kind of person to crumble in silence. Sunday morning, I hired a private investigator in Naples. His name was Marcus, known for his speed and discretion. I instructed him to follow Ethan and his family until they left the city. Money was no object. I needed the truth, no matter how painful it might be. For the next 24 hours, I didn't eat or sleep. I just sat by my phone each minute, dragging on interminably. By Sunday evening, Marcus sent the first batch of photographs. In every single frame, the truth was brutally clear. Ethan standing beside this other woman, smiling as she wrapped her arms around him. Vivian nearby, her eyes gleaming with a look of pure satisfaction. Douglas raising a glass as if he'd just won a protracted strategic game. Her name, Marcus had discovered, was Lily, a high-accent sales associate at a luxury boutique in Miami. This wasn't a coincidence, it wasn't a mistake, it was a calculated, deliberate maneuver. That night, when Ethan returned home, I was waiting for him in the living room. My heart felt like a stone in my chest. For the first time in 3 years, I looked at him and didn't see the man I had once loved. He walked in, avoiding my gaze, his shoulders slightly slumped. I offered a smile, sharp, almost knife-like. Good trip, I asked softly. Silence. A silence so profound I could hear the ticking of the clock on the wall. Then he uttered the words that shattered my world completely. I think we should postpone the wedding. I calmly set down my coffee cup, reached for the folder I had prepared, and slid it across the table towards him. Perfect, I said, my voice devoid of warmth. Because I just received some rather interesting updates from your trip. Ethan flipped through the photographs, his eyes widening in disbelief as he stared at the undeniable proof. In the images, Lily was beaming as Ethan leaned in to whisper something to her. Vivian watched from a short distance, her expression one of careful calculation. Douglas raised his glass, looking utterly thrilled. None of them behaved like a wedding was less than a week away. I crossed my arms, watching as Ethan struggled to find his words. The air between us was suffocating. He stammered, Hey, this isn't what it looks like. I fought back a bitter laugh. Isn't what it looks like? Then what is it, Ethan? A dress rehearsal before you swap out the brides? My words struck him like a physical blow. He bowed his head, remaining silent. Just then my phone buzzed. It was Sadie. You won't believe this, she said, her words tumbling out quickly. I just overheard Lily bragging at the bar. She told her friends that Vivian and Douglas promised if she could make Ethan waver, they'd take care of everything. I closed my eyes for a moment. The suspicions I had tried to bury deep within me were now glaringly obvious. This wasn't some unfortunate accident, it wasn't a cruel joke. It was a meticulously crafted plan, a plan designed to replace me. I hung up and stared coldly at Ethan, who was still dazed by the photographs. Did you know? I asked, my voice eerily calm. She's running around Naples boasting about sabotaging our wedding, saying your parents hired her? Ethan looked up, his eyes red. He opened his mouth, fumbling for a defense, but no words came. I stood up, walked over to the filing cabinet, and retrieved a large envelope. Here, I said, sliding it toward him, the hotel bill, spa receipts, restaurant tabs, and the jewelry store invoice, the one for Lily's little gift. Ethan opened it, each piece of paper landing like a hammer blow. I leaned against the desk, arms folded, my eyes locked on his face. You didn't just betray me with your actions, I whispered. You betrayed me with your silence. At that very moment, the door swung open. Vivian and Douglas strolled in, as if they owned the place. Vivian was clutching a wedding planner, while Douglas mumbled something about a golf course, his eyes still glued to his phone. They only paused when they took in the scene before them, me standing coldly by the table and Ethan stunned in front of the file of evidence. Vivian was the first to break the silence. Oh, come on, she said, forcing a smile. It was just a few harmless meetups. Don't blow this out of proportion, Hazel. I turned to her, my gaze firm, all traces of hesitation gone. Harmless, I repeated, my voice like steel. Booking hotel rooms for Lily, paying for her jewelry, introducing her to your friends as if she's family, that's what you call harmless. Douglas didn't even bother to look up from his phone, completely detached from the unfolding drama. Vivian took a step forward, a smirk playing on her lips. Hazel, you have to understand we were just thinking about Ethan. He deserves a better future, someone more suitable. I let out a sharp, bitter laugh. You mean someone with a wealthier family, don't you? I asked, each word cutting deep. Someone who can bring your family more money and status? Vivian didn't deny it. She simply adjusted her shawl, her eyes icy. I turned to Ethan, my gaze locking onto his. What about you, Ethan? I asked quietly, my voice as sharp as a razor. Do you think I'm not good enough? His mouth opened, but the words died on his lips. His silence was all the confirmation I needed. And that was the moment I knew a cruel, yet strangely liberating realization that I no longer desired to be any part of this family. I picked up the folder and glanced at Vivian one last time. This wedding, I stated, my voice low but resonant, is officially over from this moment forward. Vivian's lips tightened, her eyes blazing with fury. Douglas still didn't look up. Ethan hung his head, his shoulders slumped like a child caught misbehaving. I turned and walked out without a single backward glance. As I stepped into the evening air, it felt like leaving a stage after the final curtain call. The cool breeze touched my face, but inside I was burning like someone who had just narrowly escaped a raging fire. I sat in my car for several minutes, breathing deeply, struggling to hold back the tears. But these weren't tears of heartbreak anymore. They were tears of fury, of betrayal, of the bitter knowledge that 3 years of my youth had been bartered away like some insignificant commodity. My phone rang. It was Sadie. Are you okay? She asked, her voice thick with concern. I managed a dry laugh. Better than ever, I replied. But I need your help with something. A few minutes later, I sent Sadie everything the PI Marcus had gathered. The evidence wasn't limited to just photographs. It also included receipts and even audio recordings from the hotel bar where Lily and Vivian had openly discussed their plan to replace me. I knew Vivian would attempt to twist the narrative, but this time I wouldn't let them get away with it so easily. The next morning, I sent an invitation to Ethan, Vivian, Douglas, and Lily, requesting their presence at the Ritz-Carlton in downtown Charleston. I booked a private meeting room and instructed the staff to set up a large screen speakers and a projector. I signed the invitation with a note about clarifying matters before the wedding. None of them suspected this wasn't going to be a reconciliation. This was going to be a trial, and they were about to incriminate themselves. At precisely 10 a.m., I walked into the room. I wore a simple cream-colored dress, my hair neatly tied up. I wanted them to see I wasn't broken. I wasn't ruined. I was standing tall, stronger than ever before. Ethan was already there, looking miserable in a wrinkled suit. Vivian sat with her arms crossed, her face like a stone carving. Douglas, true to form, was staring at his phone. Lily, in stark contrast, wore a tight dress and heavy makeup, as if she were competing in a beauty pageant. I sat across from them, plugged in the USB drive, and started the presentation. Each photo, each video clip displayed on the screen systematically tore apart the web of lies they had so carefully constructed. Ethan's face turned crimson. Vivian bit her lips so hard I thought she might draw blood. Douglas finally looked up from his phone, his expression heavy and weary. Then came the audio, Vivian's voice unmistakable. As long as Lily makes Ethan question things, Hazel will be nothing but a footnote. An oppressive silence filled the room. I stood up, my voice steady. So who wants to explain first? No one answered. I looked directly at Ethan. You said you wanted to postpone the wedding. I'm helping you make that decision more quickly. He opened his mouth to speak, but Vivian interjected. Hazel, don't turn this into a disaster. This was all for Ethan's future. I laughed, the sound echoing off the walls. For his future, or for your family's reputation? I asked sharply. Because clearly no one considered my feelings while you paraded some stranger into my life a week before the wedding. Lily shifted uncomfortably in her seat, her lips pressed tightly together. I stepped forward, my voice firm. And if you think this will remain hidden, you are sorely mistaken. Every bill, every video, every single piece of evidence, it's all stored in multiple locations. One phone call and it will land on the desks of Douglas's business partners in Vivian's golf club circles and spread across social media. Douglas's face paled. Vivian gripped the arms of her chair so tightly her knuckles turned white. Ethan remained silent, the silence of a true accomplice. I gathered the file, slowly stacking the pages. I am canceling the wedding, I announced. I'm erasing every trace of you from my life. And I hope that every morning when you look in the mirror, you remember today, the day you lost someone who truly loved Ethan. Without waiting for a reply, I turned and walked out of that suffocating room, leaving them to their shame and regret. I left the Ritz Carlton, the sound of my heels on the Charleston pavement, like the steady, liberating beat of a heart finally set free. But deep down, I knew this story wasn't truly over yet. That night, as I was packing away the last vestiges of our 3 year relationship, my phone rang again. It was Sadie. You need to hear this, she said without preamble. Someone at the resort just told me. Lily's been bragging nonstop. Not only did Vivian and Douglas fund her trip, but they showered her with lavish gifts to persuade Ethan. I clenched the phone. They paid her not just with cash, Sadie continued, but with jewelry, shopping cards. And according to Lily, even a job offer if she could seal the deal. I froze in the middle of the empty room, a cold shiver tracing its way down my spine. They hadn't just tried to replace me. They had attempted to buy Ethan's future, constructing an elaborate sham with Lily cast in the leading role. Sadie hesitated, then added, You should also know, Vivian told a few close friends that she never considered you worthy of their family. To her, you were just a temporary compromise. I closed my eyes, allowing those words to sink in like a bitter pill. All those times I had strived to be patient, to prove my worth, to believe that kindness could soften their hearts, it had all been a delusion. When I opened my eyes, the fire within me was no longer fueled by pain. It was fueled by resolve. Sadie. I said, my voice calm. I'm not letting them walk away as if nothing happened. I picked up my laptop and opened Marcus's files once more. Besides the photos and receipts, there was that audio clip Lily boasting about the bride swap plan. Vivian's voice echoed loud and clear in the recording. As long as Lily knows how to sway, Ethan will handle the rest. Hazel's not the one for him. Every word, every sentence was etched into the humiliation I had endured for 3 long years. But now they constituted my proof. I sat up straight and composed a new email. The recipients were Sadie, Marcus, and a few close friends who had witnessed my journey with Ethan from its very beginning. I attached everything, adding a single cold note. In case of emergency, make sure the truth is seen. I no longer hoped for an apology from Vivian or Douglas. I no longer waited for Ethan to come to his senses. They had chosen their path, and now I was choosing to let them face the consequences. By the next morning, the news began to surface. It started as hushed whispers among friends, but within hours it had spread like wildfire. The prestigious Douglas family had attempted to swap brides a week before the wedding by hiring a third party. Several of Douglas's business partners canceled meetings. Rumors buzzed at the golf club. A former charity acquaintance of Vivian's even posted a thinly veiled jab online. I used to think bride swapping was just something you see in soap operas. I sat in my usual cafe sipping a latte, calmly reading the flood of messages. Not because I derived pleasure from watching their downfall, but because this was justice, the kind they once believed their wealth could shield them from indefinitely. As of Wednesday around noon, Sadie sent me a short text. Lily just deleted all her social media. Word is she's furious that Vivian cut her off after the truth got out. I smiled faintly. Lesson 1 in Vivian's world: loyalty has a price, but it's utterly worthless when scandal strikes. As dusk settled over Charleston, I walked along the riverbank, feeling remarkably light. I no longer needed to contort myself into someone I wasn't just to gain acceptance. I didn't have to diminish myself to hold on to a love that had never truly deserved me. 3 days after the scandal erupted, I decided to take one final step. An emergency meeting at the wedding venue, the place that was once intended to mark the most sacred moment of my life, would now become the stage where I laid bare every single lie. I sent invitations to Ethan, Vivian, Douglas, and Lily. The message was brief: urgent meeting to finalize event planning. I wanted them to believe I was still hesitating, still clinging to some desperate shred of hope. They all showed up. Vivian in a beige Chanel dress, her eyes betraying her irritation. Douglas, who brought his laptop, likely still harboring the idea of reviewing the prestigious guest list. Ethan looked worn out, the dark circles under his eyes, a testament to sleepless nights. And Lily, she arrived as if she were the star of the show in a short dress, bold red lipstick, and a smug glint in her eyes. I stood before them, a large screen set up behind me in the hall. Without a word, I began the slideshow I had meticulously prepared. The first image, Ethan and Lily looking cozy by the pool. The second, Vivian handing a gift box to Lily outside the hotel room. The third, a $1,000 receipt for silver jewelry from the boutique at the resort. The fourth, an audio recording of Vivian promising to take care of everything if Lily could make Ethan change his mind. The room fell silent, save for the soft hum of the projector. When the audio clip concluded, I turned to face them. I think I said, my voice calm but sharp as steel. Someone should start explaining. Vivian forced a nervous chuckle. Hazel, don't be dramatic. It was just a few little arrangements. We can still talk this through. Douglas frowned. His face flushed but remained silent. Lily surprisingly just shrugged, her lips curled in defiance. And Ethan, the man I once believed would hold my hand for a lifetime, just sat there, eyes downcast, as silent as a shadow. I took slow, deliberate steps toward him, my eyes locked on his face. Do you have anything to say to me? Ethan looked up. His eyes were so hollow they made my skin crawl. I think, he croaked, his voice hoarse and broken, we should go our separate ways. No apology, no explanation. Just a cold farewell delivered amidst the chaos he had helped create. I offered a faint smile, feeling strangely lighter. Good, I said, my voice echoing through the empty hall. At least this time you had the courage to say it. Vivian leaped to her feet, her face turning crimson. Hazel, you'll regret this. Not everyone gets the chance to join a family like ours. I looked at her, a bitter smile playing on my lips. I'd rather start over with nothing, I replied, than live a lifetime under your control and your lies. Douglas quickly tugged her back into her seat, whispering something in her ear, likely advising her to stop before things escalated further. I packed up my laptop, adjusted my dress, and walked out of the hall with my head held high. Behind me, the murmurs began whispering, bickering, confusion spreading like a slow-burning fire. But I didn't look back. I walked past rows of empty chairs, past white tablecloths, still waiting to be pressed. Every step I took marked the ground that should have witnessed the happiest day of my life. The scandal spread with a speed that surpassed my expectations. Within a week, what had begun as hushed gossip over afternoon tea erupted into full-blown news. Across Charleston, the Douglas family had tried to sabotage a wedding by hiring a replacement bride. Every detail fell into place. Vivian's search for a better candidate, Douglas secretly funding the scheme, Lily receiving lavish gift to insinuate herself into my 3-year relationship with Ethan. Online forums dissected the story with voracious intensity. The social circles Vivian once so proudly presided over, from her golf club and charity groups to elite parent associations, began quietly removing her from their membership rosters. Messages stating, "We need to pause our collaboration," rained down like a summer storm. Douglas didn't fare much better. Some of his investors discreetly pulled out, citing a need to reevaluate the company's ethical standards. An internal board meeting was postponed indefinitely. I listened to it all in silence, not with glee nor with regret, but with a quiet certainty that justice was finally taking its course. As for Lily, the woman who imagined that infiltrating the Douglas family would transform her life, she quickly discovered that sandcastles don't withstand real waves. After the scandal broke, Ethan clung to her like a drowning man to driftwood. They were spotted having dinner at a few local restaurants, attempting to project the image of a couple who had weathered the storm. But Lily was never the type to suffer for love. Once she realized there would be no lavish wedding, no massive inheritance, no $1 million mansion, she began to distance herself. On a Saturday night, Lily posted a new photo on Instagram, arm in arm, with another wealthy older man, captioned sweetly, "Better choices come when you realize you deserve more." 3 days later, she severed all contact with Ethan, no texts, no goodbye, not a shred of guilt. Ethan, once so proud and seemingly untouchable, now spiraled into despair. Sadie told me she spotted him alone at our old bar, staring blankly ahead, a full beer, untouched before him. Perhaps Ethan believed he was playing a dangerous game, that he could explore other options, and then return to me once the dust settled. What he failed to realize was that his game had destroyed everything, not just our love, but the last vestiges of respect I held for him. Vivian's true nature became clearer than ever. She hosted a few small parties, desperate to repair her tattered social image, but few guests stayed for long. Polite greetings were followed by quick excuses to depart. Event invitations ceased, replaced by claims of conflicting schedules and pressing family priorities. Douglas faded into silence, and rightfully so. His business reputation, the most valuable asset he possessed, was now crumbling in plain sight. I lived in peace while they weathered the storm of their own making. Every morning, I woke up in my sun filled apartment, brewed a rich cup of coffee, and smiled at where I stood. Not as a bride left behind, but as a woman who had chosen herself. 1 month after I walked away from the altar that was never to be Sadie, and I threw a small party, jokingly calling it a rebirth celebration. Close friends came. We laughed, celebrated, and danced under the warm glow of yellow lights. I wore the simple white dress I had originally picked for my engagement party, but this time I wore it for myself. No license, no vows, just genuine freedom. That afternoon, as golden sunlight bathed the historic streets of Charleston, I stood before a tall mirror in Sadie's living room, gently adjusting the ivory silk dress I wore. It wasn't a wedding dress, not a glamorous gown, just a light flowing dress, free, effortless, and a perfect fit for the new life I was stepping into. Sadie walked in holding a small flower crown and beamed. Here she is, the queen of tonight's party. I burst into laughter, the kind that finally carried no bitterness, no weight, no lingering thoughts of Ethan or Vivian, no judgmental stares or passive aggressive comments. Just me surrounded by people who truly loved me for who I was. The non wedding party was held in Sadie's backyard, which she had adorned with warm string lights, white ribbons fluttering in the breeze, and lavender blooms placed all around. The guests were only my closest friends, the ones who had seen me through both my brightest and darkest days. Everyone dressed simply but radiantly. There was no pressure, no pretense, just genuine laughter and tight, meaningful hugs. Sadie popped open a bottle of champagne and poured the first round. Raising her glass eyes twinkling under the lights, she declared, "We're not celebrating a wedding, we're celebrating a woman who chose herself." Everyone cheered, and for the first time in months, my heart felt truly weightless. We ate pizza instead of a fancy buffet. Instead of premium red wine, we clinked glasses of juice and soda. And the three-tier wedding cake that was meant for the big day, Sadie had replaced it with a small, simple cake adorned with one sweet message: "Welcome back, Hazel." I couldn't hold back the tears, but this time they were tears of pure happiness. That night, with music playing and laughter filling the air, I danced with my friends under a sky full of stars. No heels, no heavy dress, no pressure to appear perfect in anyone's eyes. I danced with my whole heart, messy, clumsy, but utterly and completely free. Near midnight, Sadie pulled me from the dance floor and handed me a small silver wrapped box. "A gift for you," she whispered. I opened it. Inside was a simple bracelet engraved with three words: "End your story." I clutched it in my hand, feeling the sweet significance of those words. No one has the right to write my story, but me, not a family, not a man, not a false promise. I smiled at my reflection in the window glass. The life I once feared would crumble without Ethan was in fact just beginning a new chapter, the most beautiful one yet, where I was finally holding the pen. As the party ended and friends began to depart, I stood alone in the quiet backyard, looking up at the sky. A shooting star streaked across the night as quick as a blink. I closed my eyes and whispered a simple wish. May I always remember that freedom is not the absence of pain, but the choice to move forward even when the heart has been torn. I opened my eyes, smiling softly, and took my first steps into a future that didn't require a lavish wedding or a grand venue, only a heart brave enough to love life with unshaken faith. That day I thought I had lost everything: a 3 year love, a dream wedding, a family I had fought so hard to build. But in truth, I had been saved, rescued from a future fraught with deceit and manipulation. Now I live my own life, free, strong, and no longer bending to please anyone. I've learned that sometimes loss isn't the end. It's the door to something better, a journey where every single step truly belongs to me. What do you think of Hazel's journey? Have you ever had to choose between love and self respect as she did? Share your thoughts in the comments. And don't forget to follow the channel for more meaningful family stories ahead.